G'day from Montreal after the Canadian Grand Prix, and have I got some stories to tell you about what transpired over the 4 days of this event. Now, one story in particular, Lando Norris and a big cookie. What's that about? We'll have to hang around for a bit longer. First up, let's talk groundhogs. I'd never seen one prior to coming to this race, but on the Wednesday I did a track walk and I came across quite a number of them, because from turn 2 to turn 8, there's pretty much just all bush, no people around, which is a great habitat for these little creatures, which remind me a little bit of wombats, although not quite as big. I sat and watched this one from about 5 metres away, and it was totally unperturbed by me. Let me touch on a few things that I discovered on Thursday media day at the track. Matt Bromwich is pretty much the poster boy at Alpine. This is one of the structures that houses a lot of compressed air tanks for tyre changes. And I came across these numerous posters of Matt, who apparently is a bit of a character. I also saw a lighter side of Lance Stroll. Lance is normally pretty serious and businesslike, but I caught him in the wet weather having some fun with this hoodie outside the hospitality suite for Aston Martin. And while Lance was having some fun, so too was Nico Hülkenberg, with my normal funny faces from the German driver, who absolutely excelled on Saturday night, but unfortunately couldn't carry it through with the same sort of performance on the Sunday, which was probably to be expected. One thing I noted, and correct me if I'm wrong here, I think this is the first time that we've seen the garages with these huge pictures of drivers on them. Now, every single garage was along the same theme, very large 2.5 to 3 metre high graphics all the way along, and I thought it was a great initiative on whoever's part it was. Let's talk Valtteri Bottas, and I love his casual nature in the paddock these days. He had some fun on the Thursday, coming in dressed as a lumberjack. He is a character. Now, I don't think he would ever have been able to get away with that sort of caper or the stuff that he did in Australia with the thongs and the shorts and the singlets. And I can tell you right now that I've got a new signed print collaboration coming up with Valtteri. It's not too far away from dropping. This pic will be hand signed and numbered by the great man, and you need to make sure that you're on the register at kimellman.com so that you get first notification before they go out to the general public. Last week, Antonio Giovinazzi had a great win at Le Mans as one of 3 drivers driving a Ferrari. And I did mention to him that I look forward to shooting him at this particular race. He was there. I caught him on Thursday night leaving the track with Fred Vasseur. Got a lovely warm smile from the man, and just a great thrill to see him have won a race. Now, what's this about Lando Norris and the big cookie? Let me explain. I was doing a live stream last week on my YouTube channel. Then I see all these comments coming up about, hey, go and have a look at Lando's new quadrant video. I was obviously interested, and I went to 3 minutes 50, and this is what I saw.
Kim Illum taking a pic of Lando eating a huge cookie.
Kim Illman, man.
Rhea Drew. Okay.
Why has he got a rock on?
Excuse me.
So I thought, how about I replicate that? Might get a laugh. I headed down to a supermarket here in Montreal, bought a couple of big cookies. Bought 4 actually, ate 2 myself. Then I rolled up to the track with one and waited for Lando to arrive on the Thursday morning. Here's what I've got, a big cookie. I'm gonna grab Lando Norris and see if we can replicate the picture in real life.
I've got more cookies.
And I thought he would get it instantly, and he looked a bit miffed. So I just mentioned quickly that the video, the cookie, the drawing, he sort of half got it, but still he seemed confused. And then John Malvin, his trainer, came out, and he instantly just grabbed the cookie and said, no, he's not having that. I didn't want him to eat the thing anyway. At the end of the day, I was in the paddock, and I walked out with him and chatted again, and I said, you obviously didn't get the thing this morning? He goes, no. I said, quadrant video, you draw a cookie. Oh, yes. And then the penny dropped, and I did get a wry smile before I went out and shot him crossing the bridge. I'd like to think that at some stage I could see the photos that he took with his Leica. He tells me he's shooting black and white at the moment. I was out in the paddock very early on Friday morning, and one of the first arrivals was Ferrari's Charles Leclerc. And there were some people up on the first floor who wanted him to sign something. And I don't know how, but this guy got Charles' attention and said, would you sign this? So he dropped his hat down, he dropped a pen down, Charles signed it, and then he's sort of thinking, this is the floppy hat, not much weight to it. How am I going to get it up? So he tried once, twice. I think he ended up having about 4 different goes at it. In the end, he just gave up, and I think somebody in the crowd offered to run the cap up to the first floor. And there were a couple of TV crews around, so perhaps you've already seen this vision somewhere on TV. I've also got a very interesting story about Carlos's Ferrari, this car. And if you go to my new What the Drivers Drove video, which will be out in a couple of days if you're watching this video live, if not, it's probably already up. Go and have a look at it. I think you'll find it most interesting. Let's talk first practice session number 1 on the Friday. Didn't last very long, did it? What was it, 5 to 10 minutes, and I was situated up at the hairpin. I'm shooting some nice panning shots with cars up the top of the shot, and then obviously we have that stoppage. At the time we didn't know how long it took, so I took the opportunity to reposition, and I went up the back of the other grandstand which faces the hairpin. Took this beautiful panorama photo. This is actually, I think, about 8 different frames stitched together seamlessly. My idea was to get an actual car or two in the shot, but unfortunately they didn't come out once I'd taken my position up there in that stand. But I did do a meet and greet straight after, and I want to thank those people who rolled up. I think there were probably close to 100 over the 20 minutes, and it was lovely to see you all. And yes, I'll be doing some more meet and greets at various other tracks this year, and I'll be alerting you about them on my Instagram page. Toto, was he on a scooter? Yes, he was, roaring up and down the paddock. It allows them to pretty much get to and from where they need to go quickly. And then I had a chat with Ollie from Red Bull, and we were talking about how popular he and also Alessandro is from Ferrari. So I thought I'd do a poll, and I can tell you that the most popular of those two in a playoff, A versus B, is Alessandro from Ferrari by a factor of about 4 to 1. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a series of playoffs each week. So I'll take the winner of this week, which is Alessandro, and I'll match him up against somebody else. Paddock Fashion, what was it like? Well, Lewis came in 4 sensational outfits. My favourite was the Sunday outfit, the red one here, a Dior outfit, and the cap I thought was a little interesting. It reminds me of a tourism campaign that the Northern Territory ran in Australia called See You in the NT. Well, it actually wasn't a tourism campaign, it was just some funny, clever guys just having a bit of fun. And they've gone on to sell quite a few t-shirts and paraphernalia with that particular slogan. Other fashionable outfits. Zhou Guan News here on Thursday. Somebody said this was Lululemon. Pierre Gasly coming in Supreme. Lando rugged up, and it wasn't that cold on Thursday morning. Carlos just wearing a simple Ferrari t-shirt, and this was a huge post, primarily because you don't often see him casually dressed and without a hat. Speaking of hats, Daniel Ricciardo's hat was colourful. He actually did a podcast this weekend with Will Arnett. Will Arnett, I thought, was at the track. Turns out he was in New York in a studio. Daniel was live at the track, and where he was doing that video was just probably 10 metres from our media centre. In fact, all along this corridor there are commentary boxes where the likes of Crofty and Sky TV Germany and all those networks set up. They can see the straight, and that's not always the case that they can see the straight, but in Montreal that's definitely the case. But of course they mainly commentate on what they see on the screens.
Wait, one really cool thing about me not racing today is I can eat poutine.
Oh, you've got poutine.
I was photographing Kevin Magnussen at the front of the Haas Hospitality Suite, and he was pretty relaxed, and obviously something quite funny was being shown on his screen. He was sharing it with Nikolai, his trainer. Speaking of fashion, and I think this probably borderlines on fashion, these rings, or probably could be mistaken for knuckle dusters, they were quite noticeable out on the grid on Sunday, as were Zhou Guan Yu's boots. I didn't realise he had purple boots. And what about handbags, watches and shoes? Well, quite a variety as usual, and here was some that caught my eye and ended up making it onto my watches, handbags and shoes of the Paddock posts on Instagram. And if you're not following me on Instagram, why not? You get all of this great content for absolutely $0. Did you watch the race? What did you think? I haven't even watched the highlights yet, but I saw the start from turn 2 and then wandered all the way around to about turn 5, shot in the trees with some interesting results there. And after the race, my most popular picture on Sunday was this shot. Lily was waiting just outside the FIA garage for her boyfriend as he walked out, and as he walked away, I had a quick chat with her, and she said, "That was gross. He's so sweaty. He's just driven for 90 minutes in quite a warm environment." And a 7th place finish for Alex was indeed commendable. Another thing I noticed after the drivers had left the media pen, well, one particular driver, Lewis, instead of walking down the paddock, he took a sneaky cut through Williams' garage out to pit lane, walked down pit lane where there is no one around, so he doesn't need to stop for autographs or selfies, and then cut back through the Mercedes garage to the Mercedes hospitality suite. I've seen this done a few times, and it's not just Lewis who does it, but it is a very quick way of getting from point A to point B if you are in a rush. Celebrity-wise, Montreal wasn't as rich with celebs as, say, the previous race in Barcelona. That was epic. But still, we had the likes of Gordon Ramsay and his daughter Holly. Martin Garrix showed up again. Seems like he's got pretty much carte blanche to come to whatever race he wants. He's, of course, a Dutch DJ and music producer, some local basketballers and hockey players, along with the NFL Commissioner, Roger Goodell, who was there to have a look around and no doubt would be very interested to see what F1's doing to achieve this huge global growth. I've done a video on that a little while back about how the sport is just going from strength to strength, particularly in the USA. And I mentioned in that video that all of the sports in America are looking at what F1's doing. And finally, here are my 10 women of the paddock, and here are my 10 men of the paddock. These are posts that I put up every single Monday and Tuesday after a race, just highlighting people I've seen that perhaps stand out from the crowd. And I must admit, I've been trying to get a good picture of Hannah Schmitz, who is Red Bull's strategist, for quite some time. And it finally came to fruition on Sunday. This was my lead picture of women of the paddock, and she is a very popular personality in F1. And with that said, I'll remind you that you can find all of my F1 digital images at prostarpics.com. If you go to my website, kimillman.com, you'll find a whole host of F1 photo books, signed prints by drivers and team principals, wall art, and even a range of merchandise. Thanks for watching, and stay passionate. One of Red Bull's strategist.